See ya. Good luck with the roads. I don't need luck, because when I'm behind the wheel, nothing can go wrong. I'm Matt Stewart, and this is the Beer Pioneer.
He's out there, somewhere, crossing country, north to south, east to west, following rainbows for the liquid pot of gold. The man is amber obsessed. He's conquering fears, drinking boutique beers, just for you and me. He's a man on a mission, a liquid dietitian, a bearded brewery magician. Ah, he's the beer pioneer. He is the beer pioneer. He's the beer pioneer. He's the admiral of cheer. He's the admiral of cheer. He is the amber cavalier. He's the amber cavalier. And he's the malted musketeer. He's the malted musketeer. He is the bevy buccaneer. He's the bevy buccaneer. Oh yes, he is the beer pioneer. Oh yes, he is.
We're travelling up the middle of Australia following the path of John McDouall Stewart, who completed the first recorded crossing of the continent in 1862. Unlike Stewart, we've got plenty of leisurely stops at all the landmarks along the way, and you better believe that includes iconic Aussie hotels. We started in Adelaide and over the past few days have made our way up past the Flinders Ranges to the small town of Parachilna, home to the Prairie Hotel, and it's here that today's leg of the journey kicks off. We're truly off the beaten track, saying goodbye to paved roads and hitting the legendary Oodnadatta Track, a 620-metre outback highway that follows the old Central Rail and Telegraph lines that were built after Stewart's exploration. Our destination, the William Creek Hotel, now famous for being the best pub in the middle of nowhere. Let the games begin. After a quick goodbye at the Prairie Hotel in Parachilna, we're getting back on the outback highway heading to the next town, Marree, a few hours north. I love stopping, but there's no better feeling than hitting that open road. Nothing in front of you but open highway and possibilities. Nothing behind you but the past. Forget it, it's gone. It's time to move on. So we're now just getting far enough into the outback that it's time for me to change hats. And bloody hell, if you wouldn't believe it, we've bumped into a herd of emus, potentially starting World Emu War 2. I won't be making the first move, but they are aggressive bastards, so it's only a matter of time before they attack. And when they do, we'll be ready. I wasn't even joking. It would be the second Emu War because the first one happened in 1932. Funny thing is, Australia was defeated by the emus. So cool. I'm torn between wanting to get up close to them and wanting to leave them alone. Probably just leave them alone. Luckily, a second war was avoided when after spotting our cameras, they were off. And it's time for us to do the same. It was from this area that John McDouall Stewart, the Scottish-born surveyor turned explorer, launched most of his expeditions north, starting in 1858. In the end, it would take him 6 attempts to succeed in reaching the northern coast, each time getting that little bit closer. It was a journey full of creek hopping, constantly in search of the next water supply that could sustain the men and their horses. This is a big relief actually, seeing this here, because that means we are still on the right path, following in the footsteps of the great John McDouall Stewart. Unky Dools, as maybe I'll start calling him. One day there might be a signpost just like this for us. Something to look forward to, I suppose. It's time to go and pay homage to this icon of exploration and draw some inspiration for the upcoming journey across the outback. This is probably one of the more abstract sculptures of John McDouall Stewart, but I think if you squint long enough, you can definitely see the resemblance. The stone monument marks a point where Stewart and his party passed on their successful final attempt up the interior in 1862. Come here, big fella. 150 years later, in 2012, this monument was built and now stands as a tribute. I've never felt closer to you than this, Unky Dool. I think it was Michelangelo who said that the sculpture is already complete within the marble block. I just have to chisel away the superfluous material. Well, I think this one here proves that he didn't even need to do that. When we first saw this statue as we were approaching, I assumed it was for the great Mervyn Hughes. The desert is an unforgiving place. I think what I've learned is that no matter the hardships and no matter the daunting task ahead of you, always keep you cool and keep you calm and never let the fatigue get to you. Certainly don't lose your mind and start chasing the drone camera. You'll end up looking foolish. I'm sure they won't leave this in the edit though, so no one will ever know. Stewart is known as one of the most competent and successful of Australia's interior explorers. He drew on the assistance of the Aboriginal people whose lands he crossed and often pushed through extreme hunger, scurvy and blindness with dogged determination to reach the top of the continent. Just up the road is the small, historic watering hole and railway town of Marree. Population a whopping 65, but with me and the crew it gets to a nice 69. The Central Australia Railway reached the town in 1883, with the telegraph and post office following a year later. The trek to Alice Springs took another 46 years and served as the original route of the Garn passenger train until a new line was built further west. We can't stop long, but I'm having a quick look around the Marree Hotel. Trying to find this version of the chisel grater sits online. I can't find it. I was starting to think it didn't exist. But if it bloody exists here in Marree, I reckon they might have just taken my dad's CD collection. Stopped in at the Marree Hotel, famous for its camel burgers. Unfortunately, missed the lunch service, so I'm having to make do with a liquid lunch today, which is fine by me. It's getting warm outside, so this is hitting the spot nicely. I've got to be honest, I've walked into this place cold and I keep seeing the name Tom Cruise around. So I'm trying to figure out who this local celebrity was. Tom Cruise? It's not Tom Cruise the actor. Different Tom Cruise. So this is the Tom Cruise Museum. Yeah, it looks like he's obviously a important man in the area. Upon further reading, turns out back in the day, Tom Cruise drove the mail trucks from Marree to Birdsville in Queensland, a distance of some 700 kilometres. That is a huge trek. What a legend. He got his own film made about him back in the 1950s.
And your only link with the outside world is Her Majesty's Royal Mail, Tom Cruise.
The route crosses some of the most challenging sandy and stony desert in the whole of Australia, and every fortnight crews set out for Birdsville with supplies and mail for the few dozen cattle stations lying along the track. Can't help but feel we could have really used Tom Cruise on the upcoming stretch of the journey. We truly had no idea what we were in for. How good's this footage? What a legend. This is something I really love about travel. You can stop off at a small town and all of a sudden you've dived deep into some fascinating history that before now you had no idea about. And there's plenty of room dedicated to old John McDouall Stewart too, as pretty much all of his expeditions came through this area. Unfortunately for him, of course, the pub was not yet built. Which is a good reminder to me that he wasn't out here drinking beers in nice hotels. He was setting forth out into the great unknown.
He is the beer pioneer.
So we're just leaving Marree, and close your eyes right now, picture iconic Australian outback. Well then open them again, because it's this. You're seeing it right now. Time for a quick loosening of the old legs before we hit the dirt road. The Oodnadatta Track runs for 620 kilometres from Marree up to Marla. But our destination today is William Creek, a much more manageable 200 kilometre journey. Our trusty friend Google Maps has said that it will take just 2.5 hours to make the trip. Well, it's almost 4 o'clock. Now we know that in this thing it could take at least double that. So it's time to hustle to make it in time for dinner. Unfortunately, it turns out that the van is not the ideal mode of transport for these corrugated roads. Corrugation forms a slight imperfection on the road, and this causes a vehicle's wheels to bounce slightly. And as more and more wheels and vehicles followed, the process spirals and spreads for infinity until you end up with this. Throw in a lack of suspension and a small kitchen full of vibrating metal appliances, and we're off to the races. So while we're not the fastest thing on the road, there's nothing wrong with taking in the scenery. Alright, if I'm being fully honest, again I was napping off the beer from lunch at this point, but it's nice the film crew caught it all. I really should get there and see all this one day. In 1844, Captain Charles Stewart set out from Adelaide in the first expedition to explore the vastness of Central Australia. Let's just say the first attempt was a bit of a learning experience, particularly for one member of the party named John McDougall Stewart, our man who would achieve the feat some decades later. With 15 men, 11 horses, 200 sheep and 6 carts, Charles Stewart was driven by a conviction that there was a vast inland sea reputed to lie in the middle of the continent, the end point of several inland rivers flowing away from the coast. Of course, there was no sea. The terrain is flat, covered in shrubs and saltbush. But there was water. The track follows a traditional Aboriginal trading route, made possible by a string of natural springs fed from a huge underwater basin. The Great Artesian Basin is one of the largest groundwater basins in the world, underlying 22% of the Australian continent. Rainfall can range from years of dry to heavy flood events. Water governs everything here, and it was these springs and creeks that allowed Stewart to hop from one source to the next. Hoping that they would encounter the sea, the very first expedition included 2 sailors, and the expedition dragged a boat behind them. The only lakes were dry and salty, so after some 700 kilometres they ditched the boat, and after trying to push on, the team, racked with scurvy and close to death, ended up heading home. Now luckily we aren't hauling a redundant boat behind us, but we've got some other issues. The roads aren't getting any better, and every inch is earned. After my nap, I rudely barged into the cockpit and said, "Oi, step aside. I'll be taking the wheel from here." As it turns out, these roads are proving to be more than a match for this old camper van. We're losing light and the kilometres are not rolling off quickly.
So we've badly miscalculated the drive tonight. We were meant to already be at our destination, but unfortunately we've had to travel a lot further along an unsealed dirt road than we realised, and it's hard to go past 60 k's without it shaking the shit out of you. So now we're sort of keeping our eyes out for roofs, make sure none of them take us out, if anything, and we're hopefully gonna get to the pub in one piece. Kinda wish I was driving down a salt flat right now rather than this corrugated dirt road, because my inner ears are now, they're vibrated out of my head. I'm feeling wired.
So we just made it to William Creek. It was past 11 when we got in, and the town was dead quiet. But luckily, we got the owner out of bed, and he sorted out these rooms to stay in, which are great. On the drive, our windshield came loose on the roads, and we were stopping, making sort of half-assed fixes as we went, using duct tape and whatnot. We had no reception to call ahead to let them know that we were delayed, so unfortunately miss our flight across Lake Eyre tomorrow. Such a bummer. Yeah, fair to say we underestimated the nature of travel in the outback, but we had to get to bed in an actual bed right now. I am gonna sleep hard for the next 6 or so hours, and we'll see you tomorrow. So yesterday's journey ended up being a lot longer and more treacherous than we realised. We thought it would be a little 3-hour cruise. It ended up being an 11-hour epic. But we finally made it here to William Creek in the middle of the night. And I don't think I've been to a more remote place in Australia than this.
As I continue to mentally reverberate to the beat of a billion corrugations, here's a few facts. William Creek is the smallest town in South Australia and is surrounded by the famous Anna Creek Cattle Station, the largest cattle station in the world, which is more than double the size of the largest American ranch. Cop that, Texas. It's recently become entirely solar powered and every year offers thousands of tourists and passers-by a place to refuel, have a beer and take in the outback. Scenic flights run over nearby Lake Eyre, the largest lake in Australia, and a must-see for anyone who makes it out this far. I'm shattered to say that our late arrival last night meant we missed our flight confirmation. So while this footage we found is all well and good, it doesn't quite hit the spot. Well, to be honest, now that I'm looking at it from this view, it's very dry. I'm glad I missed it anyway, don't even care. Instead of flying up there in the sky, I'm checking out what's going on here at ground level.
After yesterday's drive, I've slowly put my brain back in through my ears and I've realised that, I don't know how to drive on these outback roads. So luckily, there is an academy here at William Creek and I'm going to be doing a one-day intensive course before we hit the road again.
I need some local insight, so I'm meeting Trev, who runs the hotel, and basically the whole town, to be honest.
Hey Trev, how's it going?
G'day mate, how are you?
Do you reckon this town's big enough for the two of us?
Wait a sec. If I stand over here, it's not a problem.
Thought you were going to hit me. No. Hey Trev, thanks so much for having William Creek. What a town.
Oh, look, it's unique in Australia and it's unique in the desert and the outback.
It's very remote, even for outback
remote.
Australia.
And you've got this vibrant community run by about 30 of our workers out here, whether they're flying aeroplanes out of our office over here, or they're actually in the hotel or doing tours.
I'm definitely working up a thirst. So, yeah, I love this pub.
You love the pub? Yeah, it was built back in 1887 and because of the old Gann railway line. There's also a post office and a little grocery shop.
This is basically the heart of the town.
Yeah, come on, let's go and do it.
All right.
Let me open the door for you, Matt.
Oh,
not every day we have a VIP coming in here.
It seems like a quiet town, but you go into the pub and you realise there's a bit going on.
Should say you were in bed, you came out in your dressing gown and slippers basically when we rocked up because we were about 7 hours later than we were meant to be.
Oh, these Victorians, Jesus. Yeah, we came down in the middle of the night and we thought we've got to help these poor buggers out.
Thanks so much for having us, letting us stay here. What a spot.
It is different. It's 200 kilometres from anywhere on dirt roads in the middle of 3 deserts.
How did it change the town when the train stopped coming through?
Well, you really relied on the cattle stations to have what they call ringers, which are cattle hands, come in when they finished herding the cattle and have a few beers and stay the night. And also government workers working on the roads. Tourism didn't really start out here until about 2000. That's when Lake Eyre really got some great publicity filling up. And it's been really since then. It's made the top 10 tourist attractions in Australia because we are the closest destination to the lake.
What brought you here in the first place? How long have you been here?
I was flying up to Alice Springs in an aeroplane and I looked down and I thought, who in the hell would live out in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
Anyway, on the way back, I thought, God, I'm going to have to land here and see what in the hell's going on. They talked me into setting up a little scenic flight business. Well, the first flight took 9 weeks to actually occur and it was for 20 minutes and $20.
And Trev didn't stop there. For the next 30 years, he slowly started acquiring all the buildings in town.
People have just moved out of town, the kids have gone through school and they want closer to goods and services down south around Adelaide and that. Anyway, they come and see us and work out a deal, so ended up buying all the blocks of land and all the houses. If you've played Monopoly, you know what it's like to play it for real. So now I have this little township.
I've never made it around the board once, I don't think. But you're playing a real lifestyle,
Yeah.
so you've clocked it.
Yeah, I've clocked it. I've ended up never thinking I was going to do something like this. It's so out of right or left field that I've got this little micro community in the middle of the outback that I think has the most incredible little hotel.
So this is basically, you own this town, basically. Does that make you the mayor?
Being the mayor of William Creek was just too official. So I decided to call myself a benevolent dictator.
Okay, yeah, that's much better.
Yeah, I think it is, because then you don't need to explain yourself, you give yourself directions.
Yeah.
We don't go through all the bullshit they do in the city.
Well, I reckon before I go, I'd love to have a street named after me if that's possible.
Oh, that's not a problem.
Okay, great.
You are the multimedia star
Thank
of
you.
the outback now.
It's important that you know, I am very needy, so.
By the time you get out of William Creek, you'll be like a skyrocket heading for the moon.
Unfortunately, I've since learnt that I did not actually get a street named after me there, but I can still leave my mark on the pub before we head off.
He is the beer pioneer.
I'm at the William Creek Hotel, one of the world's most remote pubs. The town swells during peak tourist season from autumn through to spring, as in summer, temperatures soar and only the very stoic few employees remain. It's a harsh and unforgiving environment out here, and if things go wrong, you are on your own.
If a diesel generator breaks down, you've got to figure out why and how to fix it. If you've got no hot water, you've got to figure out why and how to fix it. Or if the bore breaks down, you've got to know how to change pumps, the desal plant, how you run it. People just get in and do it, don't they?
Now this could be handy for us, because our van is pretty stuffed, but word has it that Damo at the bar might be able to help us out. Time to charm our way into some free car mechanics.
Damo, thanks so much for grabbing us a beer. What's your role here?
All sorts. I'm actually a plumber by trade, so this is a bit of a career change for me. I haven't done much hospitality work before, so I'm either running plates, ordering drinks, ordering food. Then in between, when the people come up to the track and they got any issues, mechanical issues, blown tyres, I can change the tyres for them.
So you do pretty much whatever needs to be done?
Yeah, in a place like this out here, you can't just be one thing or do one thing. It's all bush mechanics out here.
Right, it'll improvise.
Yeah, pretty much.
That sounds like the name of the game out here. Everything's improvising.
It is. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful way of life.
What brought you here?
So me and my partner pretty much both had enough of our jobs, the hustle and bustle. Saying that, I was from a small coastal town on the York Peninsula, Stewart, South Australia.
Oh, everyone knows about the hustle and bustle of Stanford.
500 people, it's a busy place.
So is this true, or is this a myth that one time you needed something to do, the pub had closed, and you worked your way through every can in the fridge?
Every beer in the fridge.
You didn't hit the Powerades, did you?
I needed one.
The man who tamed the fridge.
Now that we've butted him up, it's time to put him to work and get him to look over our van. As it turns out, we missed some pretty standard precautions. Bloody city slickers.
So Damo, where I come from, you pump tyres up, but you take a little bit of a different tact out here.
Yeah, out here we bring them down. How did you not get stuck out on that track with a blown tyre last night?
Honestly, Damo, we were just lucky to take off the snow chains. Well, we're very confused. Hey, we're humble city types. Look, where I come from, dirt's brown. I don't know what this fandangled red stuff is, but pump tyres up, keep the dirt brown.
Red dirt, low tyres.
Thanks to Damo, we're all set to head on out of here. There's just one last attraction I couldn't pass up. So while the experienced travellers were tackling the drive out nice and early, I thought it was more important to play a few holes.
The William Creek Golf Club, I've never seen a golf club like it. Red dirt, the green is actually red. It's like upside down land, but the first is a short par 3, and there's a set of clubs and some balls in here that anyone can grab. So I'm gonna have a crack. Strong wind, you know, under normal conditions I'd be looking at birding it for sure, but so I've gone with the Wilson 8 iron. Nice and easy. Oh, that's ugly, but it'll play. If it wasn't for the windy conditions, normally I'd actually played that low on purpose to keep it under the breeze. Normally I'd have a beautiful loft on it, land it down softly with a bit of backspin, but I've played most of my life. My dad used to take me out on the course in Kyneton when I was like 2 or 3, I reckon. But yeah, self-taught, and the swing shows it. I once got a lesson and the guy said he didn't know what to do. He's like, I don't know where to begin. We'll have to break you down and build you up again. And I said, I don't have time for that. So we parted ways. The green's in relatively rough condition. It's a little chip and run here. Not too bad. I'm on the leaderboard, I reckon. What are you getting for a read there? Sort of like a bit of left to right? I haven't seen that happen before.
Geez, that had a real Greg Norman at the 96 US Masters feel about it. Anyway, on that note, we really should be off.
What a cracking time we had with Trev and the gang at the William Creek Hotel. Now we're back on the Oodnadatta Track, where I'm going to be gently rocked to sleep down this smooth country road as we head along to Coober Pedy, which is where we'll catch you next time, right here on the Beer Pioneer.
Next time on the Beer Pioneer, I take in the sights of Coober Pedy.
Yeah, it's pretty big, I guess. The view of the big wench, it's spot on up here.
And I discover the late night dugout karaoke scene.